Well, thank you for being here today. Hope you're all enjoying the conference. There's been some great sessions, and I'm super excited for this upcoming session. I've actually worked with the team since we started back in 2018 to 17, something like that. So what you're going to see today is something that I've seen grow and nurture, and so I'm really excited. For those that don't know me, I'm Alan Davidoff. I'm the SVP and practice leader here at Environics Analytics. My team actually supports a lot of the not-for-profit work that we do. So really excited to introduce you to Caroline Lewis and the work at JDRF. Sorry, I'm substituting for someone else, Jen, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. So I'm using her notes. Caroline Lewis is the National Director of Leadership Operations at JDRF Canada, leading her team in providing the tools and support to deepen relationships with constituents, including prospects, research and management, donor communications, gift processing, donor relations, and stewardship. That's a really long title, a lot of work. In this presentation, Caroline will cover the organization's journey in using its own donor data, layered with Environics Analytics data to identify and outreach to transformational donors that align with their mission. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Caroline.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Just so I sort of get a feel for who's in the room, how many people work in fundraising? Just so I get it. Okay, good. Talking to my people. All right. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of our journey with Environics, talk to you a little bit about JDRF, who we are, and our approach, and sort of what we've done with the data. So there's our agenda. Who JDRF is, our approach, the setup, a couple of case studies on how we sort of proved what we were working on, and some of the key takeaways. So, who is JDRF? We are a global not-for-profit. In Canada, we are actually an affiliate of our global team. We raise funds for type 1 diabetes research. Our main mission is to find a cure for type 1, and in the meantime, improve lives for those that are living with type 1. Alan went through this, we know who I am. Sorry, Jessica couldn't be here today. So we went through this a little bit, but initially, our name was the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, because our focus really was on children living with T1D. As time has progressed, people are living longer and living healthier lives, so it's the entire T1D community, so that's why we changed our name. An equal number of adults and children are diagnosed every day, so it's not just a childhood disease. It is an autoimmune illness, and through funding research, our ultimate goal is to end T1D. So our impact. So at JDRF, we measure our impact twofold. So the first one is the amount of money in and the amount of money out. So our number one goal is to fund as much research as possible. Our monthly donors in 2022 contributed $187,000. Our major gifts campaign in 2022 raised $21 million. Those are sort of a summary of some of our grants. Advocacy is also an important part of what we do, and we tie that into some of our mission work. So prior to 2019, 65% of our fundraising dollars came through events. So as we all know, events are really expensive to put on, and our cost of fundraising was incredibly high, and the relationship didn't lie with the donors. So the relationship really was with the participants of our events. So we took a step back, and pre-COVID, this work started. We started to look at that revenue mix and really wanted to shift our focus to leadership giving. It's way more efficient. The relationship is directly with those donors and with our volunteers that are opening those doors for us. And we started to look at, do we have the prospects to build a pipeline to do this? So one of the things, and do we have the offerings that funders would want to fund? So we started to look at building a campaign, a major gifts campaign. And the first thing we did was a feasibility study. So do we have the prospects within our pipeline? So building a pipeline became really important to us in building those relationships. There we go. So we really wanted to move from those transactional relationships that happen in events and move them towards those long-term relationships. Loyalty was really important. Once COVID hit, sustainability and having funding come in when we couldn't have events became even more amplified. It became even more important to us. It's not just about leadership giving. It was about aligning our donors to their capacity and really being donor-centered in our approach. We found this study in 2019 about organizations that hit their goals, and it really clearly says that organizations that hit their major gift goals have a systemic, planful way of identifying prospects. So we took this as a key indicator that, yeah, we're on the right path, we're doing the right thing. So, in terms of identifying prospects, there really are three key things. There's the philanthropic propensity, the mission connection, and people's giving capacity. And it's a combination of those three things. So in that first, quadrant, that group of people have a philanthropic propensity and they have a connection to our mission, but they don't have capacity to give at a transformational level. Our community is very passionate about what we do and they want to support us in different ways. And by doing this, we have different ways for them to support us. In that second group, they have the capacity and they have the connection to our mission. They don't necessarily have the philanthropic propensity to give. And Environics helped us with that as well as identifying where these people live. And the third spot is, of course, did it move? There we go. Is that sweet spot right in the middle. So they are our major gift prospects. So, building a pipeline that pulls the top donor prospect that has that three-way intersection is the key. That's the group we were trying to find. So what did we do? So we started working with Alan and the team at Environics, and we sort of came up with a two-phased approach. To be 100% honest, phase 2 wasn't even in our sightlines when we started this project. We were all focused on the first phase, which was really running through our database through the EA donor rank. So that first phase was assessing the giving capacity and philanthropic capacity of our database. We have about 1 million prospects in our database. That includes organizational records as well as individuals. So we have a relatively large database. So what did we do? So we sat down, we spent a lot of time with the Environics team to really look at what were those key data points that were important to us and how we would rank them in doing the donor rank. So giving capacity, the source was that Wealthscapes fundraiser. The average net worth compared to the rest of the country. Engagement, so we pulled all kinds of data from our own database, how much people had given to JDRF, what their connection is, when their last gift was, have they attended some of our events in the past, like how engaged are they with us? The third piece was that philanthropic inclination. So are they giving to other organizations that are similar to us? Do they have that connection to us? And the social values, do they align with JDRF and the work that we do? So we sent the information off and it came back in this gigantic spreadsheet. And I remember sitting with Alan on the phone and I was like, okay, now what? And so I had pivot tables for my pivot tables for my pivot tables, and I was chewing through this data and I was like, how are we going to look at this in a way that makes sense and allows us to prioritize our top level donors, but also build a pipeline for annual, for planned, for all those different groups within the organization. So what we did is we chunked people into 9 different segments. And what we did is we took the Environics data and we overlaid people's connection to JDRF. So we know our #1 indicator is their connection to JDRF. and their connection to our cause. So those that are closest and are people who have type 1 themselves, they're a grandparent to somebody with type 1, a parent. The mid connections are something like their cousin or their friend, and then those with no connection, we highlighted as well. So what we did is we layered in the information from Environics with people's connections, and we started grouping people into these 9 blocks. So the top quartile, those top 3 blocks, was high connection, high capacity. So those are those ones that have those super high connections to us. They had the high philanthropic, capacity to give, and they were philanthropic and they give to other organizations. In the middle quadrant at the top, that was the high capacity, highly philanthropic, but they had a mid connection. So the connection wasn't, through a friend or, through, a cousin or something like that. And then they have high capacity, but they have no connection. They may have attended a gala in the past, or, there could be some other way that they came into our database, but they're not directly connected to us. The mid-level, was those, we sort of took it down a notch on their capacity, but their high connection, mid connection, and no connection. And then the base was those, we really looked at their capacity ratings there as well. So across the bottom is their connection from low to high, and then on the left-hand side is their capacity from low to high. So then we started looking at, okay, so who, within these 9 quadrants, who are our prospects and where do they live? Where do they belong? So we layered in, our major gift prospects, our annual giving prospects, and, our monthly or mid-level, those that are really highly connected to us. So if you look at those high capacity connections, what we did is, we needed to be systematic with this. So those with that high capacity, high connection had the donor rank of 5, the highest net worth, the highest donor potential, high social values, and that really close connection to the work that we do. In the mid, it was the exact same criteria except for their connection at that point. And then the no connection, are those, we still need to find out, maybe they do have a connection and we don't know who they are. So we left the criteria the same and we really just overlaid the connection piece in. Oh, and hold on. One important point. Did I go back? No. 70% of those at that high capacity, high connection rate hadn't given a gift since 2017. So when we started diving into the data and really focusing on that group, we could really start to pull some key data points from them. So what did we find by doing that? So, those that were in that high capacity segments, they gave 3 to 4 times more. They had the total lifetime giving much higher. The donors with the personal connection to our mission had 3.5 times higher gifts in that higher capacity ranking. And it really gave us the ability to dive down into who these people were and to test if we were looking at the data the right way. So, by creating this approach, we really understood more what our priorities were. And this became, how do we operationalize it? So we looked at how we communicate to these different groups. We changed everything from account management and portfolios. We reprioritized. My entire team was built as a result of this work because we needed to support the campaign. We needed to understand where people lived physically. I made a joke at one point, I was going to open an office in Westmount. Seriously, it gave us the ability to really dive in and do some geographical digging as to where our, being national, where our staff were and how they could connect within the communities. And how big the segments were and where the opportunities were. That was key. We started really researching that high capacity, high connection group. A lot of them we knew already. There were some we had no clue. So here's the case study. So the first one was a donor who came, one of those people that bubbled up, that came up as a high capacity, high connection. She had given a gift of $300 back in 2019. At that time, she indicated that her spouse lived with type 1. So she was in that high connection, you know, that sort of thing. As almost everybody does, we have stewardship matrices and whatever, but she was below that threshold. So nobody had ever even thanked her for that initial gift. After the review, we started digging into that group she lived in a postal code with an average net worth of $16 million. Right, so we started looking, okay, who's she connected to? Who does she know? Of our volunteer group, who knows this person? We know that she's highly, highly connected to our cause. Does she know the work that we're doing? What prompted that gift? We've made reach out with her through a volunteer, and that work is still, you know, we're still working towards a gift with that individual, but, you know, she really is going to be a key part of the campaign. The second donor was an interesting one as well. So we also started looking, identifying connections with that volunteer group. We identified we were putting lists in front of volunteers, and somebody said, oh, I know that person. And we connected with them, and they made a significant gift. And her question through the second or third meeting was, how did you find me? How did I come forward? And, you know, it was an interesting question to hear, but there were donors that we just didn't have any clue as to the capacity that they could give. This person is still now connected and is now opening the doors for us for other donors within their community that they know that are connected to type 1. So we're seeing some shifts to donor behaviors within the current economic climate. This model has allowed us to stay nimble and allow us to focus our attention where it matters the most, based on our staffing and people's capacity. So in terms of key takeaways, Environics data supported all areas of the organization. It really did build the pipeline for us in a data-driven way. We were able to group people in a way that made sense. We applied the concepts, and we found some really unique opportunities as an organization that are allowing us to fund our campaign. So we're currently in a $100 million campaign. We're in year 3, and we've raised $75 million so far. And this was the first step that we took before we did the work. What else do I want to say here? Yeah, that's fine. Does anybody have any questions or?